All right. It's Monday night. YouTube, Facebook Live. How are you? It's been a long day, but we are so happy to be here and have you join us tonight. Dialogue with Dozie at 8 o'clock. We do serious things. We do fun things. We do humorous things. We do travel things. We do cultural things. We do everything that you like. Tonight, we got a great show for you. I got some fantastic guests on, and they're going to be joining in just a second. I want to introduce the show. First, I want to, before we actually get into tonight's show, I want to introduce my guest. And one of our guests has a special announcement, and we're going to open with that guest. Let's do this. Let's just go around, and we can put the Brady Bunch panel up, and just have everybody just introduce yourself. How you line up on the Brady Bunch panel. The night show, Dialogue with Dozie. So glad you're here. Look like we're starting with you, Miss Ingrid.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Ingrid Ford, and I consider myself a faith and family advocate. And I also am a financial consultant, and I'm honored to be here tonight with you.
Thank you. We're grateful to have you tonight. Thank you so much.
Yes, my name is Luckton Luck, current president for the Broward Young Republicans. Pastor, I just want to say thank you again for inviting me and allowing us to have this discussion.
Thank you, Luckwood. Thank you for joining us back. I didn't know if you want to come back after that grilling we did. No, thank you,
brother. Ryan Ryder, I'm the former president of the Broward County Young Republicans. In the construction industry now, former school board member, gubernatorial appointed school board member in Broward County, 6th largest in the country. And very happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you kindly. The gentleman with the beard.
Good afternoon, you all. I'm just a good U.S. citizen. I'm not a Democrat, no Republican. I'm a other. I support the people. I'm son-in-law, construction worker, and a preacher.
Thank you. We're a little preacher Leighton today, preacher or faith-filled Leighton. As I promised, before we get into the show, one of my guests had a special request tonight, Miss Ingrid, and she was going to be with us on our show about a month ago, and she was unable. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Henry, for making it possible. I know it's last minute. And thank you, Ryan, for joining us. We're blessed to have dignitaries amongst us and of everything, Miss Ingrid. We have public servants. Now, I'm going to tell a story, Miss Ingrid, but let me let her have the floor. She asked for a special request, and we're going to highlight it again before we end tonight's show. Miss Ingrid, go ahead.
Well, thank you so much. It's an honor again, and thank you for having me. So on December 6th last year, 2023, an atheist brought a challenge to the Bible, specifically the New Testament, to have it banned from Broward County school system. And that hearing was done through the Superintendent's Review Committee, which is a newly set up committee to review books that are challenged. And so the Bible, to our shock and surprise, ended up on the challenge book list to be banned in Broward County schools. But we showed up in numbers. We brought pastors, community leaders, and parents, concerned parents and students to the Broward County School Board on December 6, 2023. And we were able to overturn what they had planned. And so the review board voted unanimously 9-0 in favor of keeping the Bible. However, that decision was appealed. And so now, tomorrow, April 16th, again, we're back at the Broward County School Board. A Satanist group, we believe, has appealed the victory that we had, and they're still trying to remove the Bible from Broward County public schools.
And what can we do tomorrow? Those who are local, what can be done tomorrow to help the cause on that?
Well, those who are local can definitely show up with their Bibles at the school board tomorrow. It's the address is 600 Southeast 3rd Avenue in Fort Lauderdale, zip code 33301. We're asking every faith and Bible believer to show up at the Broward County School Board and to stand for the Bible. The Bible is the number one all-time bestseller book in the history of the world. There's been over 5 billion copies of the Bible sold, and it's still selling today. The Bible is the most inclusive book in the history of the world. It doesn't matter what race you are, what background you are, what your sexual orientation is, what the color of your skin is. Every human being can find acceptance and love and redemption in the Bible.
All right. So you've heard the invitation, and it's certainly a worthwhile, more than worthwhile cause. We've all had our issues with these books being banned. I wonder if the Quran or some of the other books are available. The Torah, some of the other books of faith, have they been banned? But we may have to come back and have a special show on this one. But for now, we just want to make sure we're supporting it. If you're local, if you can't support it in person, then definitely support it in prayer. And support our sister and those who are going down to stand up for the word tomorrow night. Okay. All right. I'm trying to do a little publicity at the same time. So blessed again tonight to have Janice Hazel. She is a former. She spent most of her time, most of her life, her career in public service in Washington D.C. as an aide to Congress persons, and she worked diligently by the side of Miss Shirley Chisholm was one of the ones, and she's having to come to us by way of avatar. She's having some computer issues. Miss Jan, how you doing?
I'm good. Wonderful to be with you. My operating system is acting out, so my memory is not as good as it should be. So that I don't crash, I'm not going to turn on my camera.
We're going to make it work. Again, to our listening audience, we have a 5-person panel, and one of the things I've learned when a panel is this big is that we have to be very cordial and considerate of our time responses. So our responses will be brief, but we can we can go around quite a bit. So just want to advise some of the panel because we're just kind of just getting together. Okay. Hey, tonight's show. After all the indictments, impeachments, lost civil trials, 37,000 registered fact-check lies, and other issues, we're wondering how can a large majority, over half right now of the polls, represent that the former president, 45, is tied or in the lead for the presidency of the United States. We want to ask, how does he demand that support with all of these things going on? And I'm gonna just throw it out. And this is how I want to do it. I have a script, but I want to do this. I want to ask everybody on the panel, and we'll do the Brady book thing with the Brady Bunch thing, and we'll just go around, start with Miss Ingrid. If you can do just in 30 seconds as to why he should be supported or why he shouldn't be supported. We'll go around the panel, and I guess Jan, you'll be last. I don't see you on that Brady Bunch, but you'll be after Ryan. So let's go. Miss Ingrid, would you lead us off, please?
Yes, it will be my pleasure. So President Trump definitely should be supported as a 47th president. We are in dire times, on the verge of a world war, possible World War III, and we need a strong leader. We need a strong leader. The US dollar and economy was strong when President Trump was in office. There was no inflation. Food prices were 30% less. Gas prices were 50% less. There was peace in the Middle East. A wall was being built to protect the American people and our borders. We were producing oil and were working towards becoming energy efficient. So it is preposterous to me that the greatest nation on earth should have to rely on developing nation and even some of our enemies for our energy supply. So I think America needs to wake up and support President Donald John Trump.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. My response to that is, look, the polls, is what people feel, and at the same time, it's going to be the people that's going to decide the vote in November. So my response to that is the reason why people are supporting the President Trump, is that we already know how things has been with him in office. When the economy was doing well, we were safer. We didn't have World War III starting, and regardless of these indictments, it really shows the strength of his leadership. Now, I understand when it comes to character, this is a character assassination by the Democrats and the liberals who do not like Trump, and this is their playbook. And the thing is, when people are going to the polls and they're going to think with their pockets, and that's the reason why I believe that there's a strong support for the president. Because to quote, I believe it was Bill Clinton at the time, "It's the economy, stupid." And I don't say that in a derogatory way, but it's just really what people are feeling. Because when things are not as affordable, housing, vehicles, you name it, across the whole board, people is really feeling it. And regardless of how the Democrats spin it, you can't tell me that Bidenomics is working.
Okay, let's try to stay within this 30-second. I know I'm asking a lot of you, but we want to keep this thing going and hear from everybody. Nice smile, look. Let's try to keep it going. Henry, you're up next.
Being a criminal don't justify you as being a president or even running for presidency, because if anybody even sitting on the panel had a background and record like he did, do you actually think they allow you to have your name on the ballot to even run as president? Well, we're gonna have more discussion about him. It's just something to think about as well, because you're a good criminal don't make you a good president. I'm gonna leave it like that right now.
Thank you, Bert Ryan.
Yeah. So, I think part of what Luck was saying about it being the economy. The economy is one of the reasons why, and I think it's the lack of choices, for people, for the general population, the nonpartisans. And when I say nonpartisans, they could be registered Republican, registered Democrat, but I even know Democrats who aren't going to be voting for Biden this go around, just because of the simple fact of the way the economy is going. I think even though it's a big picture for me, and as well as Luck, who both served in the United States Marine Corps, but it's a big picture, but also a smaller portion of the population that really focuses on it, is what's going on in the global affairs. Foreign affairs right now has to be one of those things that really needs to be paid attention to, whether it's China and Taiwan, Russia and Ukraine, Gaza and Israel, and Iran now in Israel. There's a lot going on that really affects the future of us being one of the great superpowers.
Okay, Ms. Jan, if you can stay in that 30, we appreciate it. We're trying to say so we can get this thing going around.
Well, from my experience working in the United States Senate for members of the United States Senate who had integrity, and working in the United States House of Representatives for members of Congress that had integrity, this person who is trying to become president again lacks integrity. And my opening statement will be the entire Make America Great Again slogan is founded on racist, they're calling them dog whistles now. This is not the Republican Party of even Ronald Reagan, which I've worked in the Reagan administration, the Obama administration, and the Trump administration. And I've not seen anything that lacks so much integrity as the Trump administration and all of his minions. I'll open with that.
I am really thinking, Jan, I am severely challenged tonight to try to be a moderator. I do want to answer some of the things I heard on the first round, and that was the thing that spoke mostly that I heard was the economy, and I just want so if the economy, let's discuss the economy for a second. I guess the panel is aware that America is the #1 global economy in the world. #1. Inflation and inflation at the grocery store and gas prices are higher. President Biden has done what President Trump, former President Trump, said he was going to do. Biden has drilled and used some of our resources, which Trump said he would do, but he didn't do. And I have a theory about that, and it has to do with money being made and keeping billionaire friends happy abroad. However, I'll stay out of that. But we understand that the economy is coming out of a pandemic, something that most of us pray to never see again as long as we live. So let's talk the economy. The Biden administration has the strongest job ratings since Clinton's administration, and that's saying a lot. That's saying a whole lot coming out of the economy, coming out of the pandemic. We're going to talk about the pandemic also because the president has a job to shepherd the nation, and we had some obvious challenges from 2016 to 2020. Let's talk about the economy. What specifically? What, Henry? I'm gonna go to you first. As a consumer, how do you compare these 4 years to the previous 4 years economically?
Economically,
Yeah, we have more opportunity for our job market and levels in the position of having a job today, being across the board, even as people of color and different races. Because if you look at the stats compared to now, compared to then, we're in a better situation than we've ever been. Even during the time when Obama was president, we have better positions and jobs today, which is we didn't have was not even a little bit up under Trump. Well, the other former presidents, not even Obama, but up under Biden, we sitting straight in the job market and it's started growing.
I want to cut you.
Can I respond? I don't know if I'm not able to, but I just want to go ahead and moderate. But I do want to respond to that.
Okay. You and Miss Ingrid, she was okay. So let me just say this. Henry, you mentioned the Obama administration's economic record and how Biden surpasses that. Let's please not forget that this country was on the verge of bankruptcy in 2008 when President Obama went into the White House, and Jan can really back that up. When we were on the basis of bankruptcy, on the basis of the war, I think the Gulf War, the second Gulf War that President W. Bush was conducting, and Obama helped to revive the economy. And we saw what happened after he got left office. President Trump was in office, and we see how it is now moving under President Biden. We acknowledge the inflation. However, we do know the job market is stronger than it has ever been. And I'm glad you mentioned that the strongest job market for minorities. Let's remember, President Biden was able to do what President Trump was not able to do, and that was passing of the infrastructure bill, which is hiring hundreds of thousands. Work's already been done. People already been hired. Go ahead, Ms. Ingrid Deborah Lovewood, if you would, please.
yes, sir. Thank you. President Biden is the one that closed the pipelines. He closed the pipelines when we were at a surplus in our energy supply. President Biden is the one that came in and closed the pipelines, and housing prices are unattainable right now for the average American. Rent is through the roof. Food prices are up 30%, and I was paying $2 plus for gas before, and now I'm paying almost $5 for gas, and I do maximum gas. But I want to say to respond to my brother here, Henry. We want to talk about the race issue because for a long time, our people have had a wool over our eyes, and I want to talk about that because the Democrat talk, but when it comes to seriously helping the Black people, like myself and immigrants, it's the Republicans who always, and I have the evidence here, and I'm glad we're on. I'm going to show you how they've talked, but they've not really helped African American people.
Beloved.
Here's the thing. What I wanted to respond. I'm trying to figure out. Ingrid mentioned the wool. I don't know if we're living in the same world, and I say that because there is no way I can really take with a grain of salt of everything that was said as far as how things are doing so well under the current administration. So, for example, you mentioned job growth. Well, look, with COVID, everything was shut down. We didn't know what was going on at the time. Of course, that was the response. We shut down all those jobs that were shut down are the jobs that you're referring to, that the job growth. So all the jobs that President Trump had brought into, develop into country during his administration also was shut down. And of course, the Biden administration is trying to take credit for that. I just want to address that. And then not only just that, again, you're talking about opportunities currently right now, as if we didn't have opportunities under Trump. We did have opportunities. Matter of fact, unemployment in the Black community was down. And the Black businesses were able to thrive also under the Trump administration. So it's almost as if don't want to acknowledge the fact that there were plenty of success under the Trump administration. And I just quite frankly, it just seems like we're not in the same world.
I want to challenge you to bring up your statistics about the success of the jobs market under Trump as compared to Biden. And really, this tonight is not to be a referendum on Trump versus Biden. We'll say that for another show. I know that some of those elements are going to have to come into it, the comparative elements. But primarily tonight, we want to ask America. And some of you all are speaking out on behalf of the former president. Some of you all are saying, no, we can't do this again. We got a few minutes before break. But I would challenge you because I see that jobs market every month. And yes, I know that there was a rebound from the economy, but it was never to the rate the Biden, the Trump job market just was neck and neck with the second term Obama job market, and statistics will bear that out. And on the Biden, it is just going up the stratosphere. I understand we are coming out of a pandemic, and that is a helpful entity into this. But I just wanted to say that let's bring the facts together on that, and let's not just talk rhetoric. Jen, I want to ask you, and Randy can speak to this. You talked about integrity. I saw 37,651 documented lies that the former president has told, and you all know he can't get in front of any speaking engagement and not be on script and tell the truth. Jen, just having worked there, just tell us how vital the integrity issue is for the presidency of the United States. And I know this is we are the pausing and going to the second half hour, but if you would just start it, and I'll ask Brandon to respond.
Well, absolutely. As I said, not only have I worked for members of the United States House of Representatives and the United States Senate, I've also been a political appointee to the Reagan administration in the 1980s, to the Obama White House, his administration, as well as to the Trump administration. I have met Mr. Trump in the 80s, actually worked with him as a lobbyist for the commercial building industry. And the man lacks integrity. And talk about his record. He lost the House, he lost the Senate, He lost the presidency. So the Republicans really, really are enchanted with a loser. His policy record included major changes at home and abroad. He achieved a string of long sought conservative victories domestically, including the biggest corporate tax cuts that this country has seen. That did nothing for middle America. He reshaped the federal judiciary. That was a fait accompli. In the international arena, he imposed tough new immigration restrictions indeed, but that flopped. Withdrew from several multilateral agreements, forged closer ties with Israel, and we can see just how wonderful that's going. And he launched a tit for tat trade dispute with China. He's a loser. He lacks integrity. And I would have to say, and a number of people always are aghast when I say this, while I think popular media would like to paint Richard Nixon having lost his way and a lack of integrity. I heard that one of your guests, Mr. Luck, stated that Mr. Trump did a lot for Black Americans. You really are living in an alternate universe. That's not what's happening here in America. Mr. Nixon actually did more for Black Americans than what Mr. Trump has done. He does a lot of monkey shining. You know, his latest venture over the weekend, going to historically Black colleges in the Spelman, Atlanta, Morehouse Triangle, and they're always ruses. You know, he really thinks that he's still in television because those were not even students who were out, you know, waving and stomping for him, and that's proven. So, you know, he lacks integrity. I've worked with members of Congress such as Newt Gingrich, and we agreed to disagree on a number of things, but we got things accomplished for the American people. And that's where Mr. Trump, you know, his record is really not one that middle America really should be embracing. So yeah, those who are living in an alternate universe. He's a loser. He lacks integrity. And
I have to say that, you know, we do live like
very bad. And like yourself, Mr. Luck, very, very much in terms of disrespecting people, such as what you just did, butting in while I was speaking. I didn't do that to you, but that's what Republicans do. I've dealt with them for 40 years.
Oh, okay. Ryan, could you, I know you're waiting by, we'll give you on the other side of the break. We'll also come back, start off with you. Would you please answer that? Could you do that in a minute and a half, please? We got to get over to this break.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I just wanted to say, you know, as Miss, I want to say this correct, Hazel?
Me?
Hazel. Yep.
Miss Hazel.
As Miss Hazel, you know, said, she has a long historic history with administrations, and, you know, going from administration to administration. I just wanted to talk real quick back on the economy. I don't want to get into you know, characters on each president, because we can go in, you know, we're well past the days of James Baker, who is my political hero, and I think has done a fantastic job in you know, guiding presidents along in his historic career. But going back into the economy real quick, as you know, things lag. And just as it lagged from the from the Bush economy to the Obama economy, from Clinton to Bush, from Bush to Obama, from Obama to Trump, you know, Trump did have a much lower unemployment, while the job creation wasn't as high as it is currently under under Biden's first 30 months in office. His unemployment is much lower. It was a 4%. It's not much lower, but it is lower at 4% versus Biden's 4.2% on average. So, you know, as we start looking into that, and if we look into the first 30 months of Trump had about 5 million job creations, and then under the first 30 months of President Biden, it was a little over 15 million. And so if we want to continue that trend, as you know, economies lag, we could say that because of the Paycheck Protection Program, which was put forward by Senator Rubio and Senator Collins, I think, if we look at what that did to the economy and how that saved those jobs, and then it created more jobs, whether they went from people working at home and AI, I think, some of that success that was touted earlier under President Biden has to do with what was done in the later years of President Trump, whether it was his idea or not, whether it was, Senator Collins and Senator Rubio's and Congress. It's still, it goes to that administration. Okay,
I don't know if y'all heard that thud. That was that break hit me upside the head. I got an answer to it. We'll be right back. A word from our sponsor. GigaWorld.com. Hey, they got you all of your virtual needs, absolutely every last one of them. If they can make this face look good, they can make you look good. They got you, your web building, any virtual computer type, virtual based activity that you need, they got all your needs covered. The Latoyas and Marquias and company, they take it. And guess what else they do? Marquia, Latoya and Latoya, my daughter Latoya and Latoya, substitute for the host when they're away, mainly on cruises, and they do what they call a takeover. And I have to negotiate with the wife to get the internet that night if I don't have an internet package, because they do the takeover to another level. They are humorous. I'm sure Jimmy Fallon got a hold of them. He tried to pull our producers. GoGigaWorld.com. They got you covered, okay? All right. Tonight we want to do a shout out. I know it's a lot going on. Y'all think I'm going soft because there's no, are you serious? Or there haven't been any dang dogs lately. It's just been a lot of shout outs, but a lot of stuff historically is coming out. Tonight we want to shout out Mr. Jackie Robertson. Jackie Robertson, 77 years ago, made his debut into the major leagues. Now, I don't know if you know what he put up with, but he put up with what all African-American athletes put up with. Our Hispanic brothers and athletes in the baseball community didn't put up with what African-Americans put up. They had black cats thrown with them in the outfield. They had to stay in alternate hotels. They received death threats. The irony of it, you're paying to go see this superstar, but yet you're threatening his life. Or you're complaining because of the color of his skin. America, we got to get over this racism thing. Mr. Jackie Robinson remained to be a class individual. He was also in the United States Army. He was a graduate of UCLA basketball fame dynasty. UCLA. Jackie Robinson, we salute you, sir. We salute your bride. We salute your family. We salute everybody that helped to make you what you were, and we thank you so very much for what you meant to our race and to America. Jackie Robinson, we salute you tonight, sir. Back on the dialogue. Listen, I need to hear from Lovewood was trying to speak, and I want you all to know it's been a blessing coming to know this brother. We're going to hear from him, Miss Ingrid. We're going to hear from Henry Slice in between them. I want to go back to and please, we have a big panel. So let's please kind of keep our responses within a minute and a half. The integrity issue has been issued. The character issue, I heard Ryan say, let's not. If we want to get with character, we can go back. And I know everybody wants to go back to Bill Clinton. But remember Bill Clinton. Last time we had a balanced budget in this nation, it was the years of the Clinton administration that did it. Henry, I heard what you said. So today, we were supposed to have done this show the following week after we had the group on last time, and I said I don't want to do that the night after the Lord's resurrection celebration. So we pushed it back to the night, and ironically, it falls on the night on the first of 4 trials. The president, Miss Ingrid, Henry, and Lovewood. The president is beginning a trial today for the alleged hush money. He's been indicted for hush money. He has to sit in court for that. He's facing trial on that. He's been successful along with his right-wing Supreme Court in pushing back the other three. He has a judge down here in Florida who has made it very palatable for him to seemingly escape serious prosecution for, and I'm trying to determine in my mind which is the more serious of all of these. The papers, the documents, and that's going to beg the question a little later on in the dialogue, what is his connection to Russia? And why does this nefarious connection have such ramification that it keeps the Speaker of the House from bringing up for supporting Ukraine because of the Russia alliance of the guy down up in Mar-a-Lago? Okay, so he has those two. We hadn't begun to talk about January 6th. That's absolutely unbelievable. And the election interference case in Georgia. And this is primarily, Jan, this is a primarily African-American panel, or minority for sure. Here's what just befuddles me. How in the world can we sit by and watch, and Republicans, I want you all even to defend this, all of these election laws that have been resurrected to try to keep black folk from going to the poll? You know that's not going to happen. We're too resilient for that. This president, he has people denying the election even now. Ms. Ingrid, in a minute and a half, and I hate to impose that time limit on you, but all of these criminal trials and all of these indictments and the president being mired, the former president being mired under all of that, how is he going to run for president successfully?
Well, he's already successful. He's already beaten. There were like a dozen other candidates in the race, and he's already beaten all of them. And he has, come back to the forefront, and he will be the 47th president. And we're talking about integrity, and we're not talking about Mr. Biden's criminal family who use their political clout to take millions of dollars from China and other nations around the world. There is evidence. There's wire evidence, several wire evidence. It's up to $50 million that was tracked to Mr. Biden's account and his son's account so far, and this will come out. Pay attention in the next 3 months. There is no one that lacked more integrity than the Biden crime family, and all of this that's being suppressed is going to come to the forefront, because whatever it is written, that whatever is in darkness will come to light. It will come to light. And so also I want to talk about historically, Republicans and Blacks historically. My family's been here for...
Can we save that for a second? I want to stick with what you just said, that talking point, the Biden crime family. We know politically we all have slogans, but haven't the Republicans embarrassed themselves enough with all of these impeachments? They'll be trying to impeach you and I for something. It's embarrassing. They had Hunter Biden in. They couldn't find anything. Nothing came out. These smoking guns. So now the head of DHS. Now they're trying to impeach him. That won't get far. They've had that opportunity. Are you telling me there's a smoking gun that's waiting?
I'm telling you there's a smoking gun, and I'm telling you the entire Biden crime family and the Obamas and the Clintons and everybody who is connected to them will be exposed. It's already coming. The train is coming. It cannot be stopped. The evidence is there. There's over $50 million that it's already been tracked and wired to Mr. Joe Biden's address while his son was living there in his property. And so they have that evidence. And that evidence is coming to light. So let me just say that of the two candidates right now, Mr. Biden has lacked the mental capacity to lead America because of his rapid decline. When Mr. Biden is not busy falling, he's busy falling asleep at important events. We're about to be in World War III, and we need a man who is on point, and mentally he's not there in terms of his integrity. He will, first of all, Mr. Biden will not be the Democratic nominee. He will not get to November 5.
I feel so bad because I'm imposing these time limits so everybody can get a say. I'm gonna get to him. I'm gonna get to Ludwig. I want to acknowledge Dene VT says there are integrity issues on both sides, which is not entirely new. That's not entirely new for the office. I think we need to question what are the integrity issues. Integrity issues that we got to watch Russia because we have a presidential candidate who is in love with Putin and all dictators, or are the integrity issues about lying about the economy, lying about race relations? Those are the kinds of questions that we're going to need to ask. And you said the president is sleeping and he won't make it to November. Well, I got to say this, and I'm trying my best to be impartial on this thing. I saw a president who ended a vacation and hustled back to the White House and convened the national security staff to deal with the Israel-Iran situation that occurred the other day. Henry, go ahead.
Miss Ingrid, you keep talking about how Biden will be. Well, Donald Trump has been exposed. He has been proven guilty time and time again. He's still being proven guilty with evidence. Everything they've had on Trump has been evidential. What people have not laughed at America when he was elected president? All of them laughed at us. So, and the reason he's so cool with the Russians, they seen how dumb he really was. He's a businessman. He don't care about people. It's in his gene. Look at his daddy. You want to pull up the past? Let's look at the past of his genealogy. His daddy was the head of the Klansman. All of Trump's friends are part of the Klans group. All the people that are in politicians that are connected to him are part of the Klans group. Look at the track record and look at everything that's been presented. All the stuff against black. Now, what person even during when they kicked in at the White House, if it would have been any of us, it would have been more body bags than they would have had in storage. Not only just there, but anywhere else that they would have stood us. Because if you look at every city, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, look at the racism in the politics where they're trying to shut down from all black being able to vote. Look at the rest of the state. I'm gonna leave it right there.
I gotta get love with Ryan. I gotta get love with Jan and Ryan, and Ryan's had his hands up. So I gotta get them in. Love, go ahead and just. So
I'll do brief. So first, I just want recognize that fact that I did cut off Hazel. That was not my intention. So I just want to apologize about that. Because here's the thing. There are decent people like myself who are Republicans who are going to vote for Trump. And to say that, there's no decent I'm not saying this is your words, Hazel, but I've had conversation where people will say that Republicans are like this. And I think that's unfair. Again, agree to disagree. That's people's opinion. And I'll say this, the fact that especially millennials and Gen Z, there are a lot or growing numbers of our community that are not voting for Biden if they did vote for him again or back in 2020. So the thing is, regardless of whatever narrative you want to put out there, the fact is there are growing numbers of people in the Black community that are not going to go back for voting for Biden again.
Okay, Ryan, I'm gonna ask you to speak, and then I'm gonna give Jan the floor to just respond to what she's heard.
All right, I'll put 30 seconds on the clock. All right, real quick, I just wanted to say, I agree with Dene VT that there are integrity issues with both candidates. I will say this back to Ingrid's point earlier that a Congress member from South Florida brought up recently hey, I will second the motion if you make the motion to impeach President Biden, I will second that motion, and nobody made the motion. So if they have the smoking gun, why are you waiting? Why are we waiting so long? So I agree. I think there are bigger fish to fry out there. as it relates to the Democratic Party. I mean, we have folks like AOC and this whole issue with the ceasefire and siding with Iran. And I've seen it on both sides, folks siding with Iran on the Republican side and on the Democratic side. And I'm like, what world are we living in? And I know Miss Hazel will agree to this. I mean, back in the 90s and the 80s, you would never hear that. You would never, I mean, well, maybe in the 80s, but definitely not in the 90s and the early 2000s. You would never hear anybody saying they were siding with Iran and saying that how much they support Iran and what they were doing. So I'll just leave it at that. I hit my 30 seconds. Sorry.
But okay, bless you. So before Jan hops in, let me ask you, since you brought that up, we're talking about siding with Iran. Even worse than that, what does mean the Marjorie Taylor Greens and all of the MAGA crazies, if I can use that term, on that side of the aisle? Why are they suddenly in love with Russia? Is it because of former President Trump's affinity for Russia and Putin and dignitaries?
Is this question towards me?
You can answer it.
So I believe that we have entered in an era of I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Idiocracy, but it's a satire movie. But I feel like we live in it sometimes when we get told something by media, and I'm not even talking about MSNBC or Fox News or anything like that. I'm talking about media like Alex Jones or Patrick Bet-David or any one of these folks who are sitting there and just spewing an agenda and an opinionated idea onto people, and they latch onto it. They have a following and they latch on, and the following latches onto it, whether it's Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, they latch on. I mean, I'm guilty of it myself. I am wearing an entire outfit of things that I saw on Instagram. So I bought it. But we live in this society now of social media and alternative, I'll call it alternative media, where we that's where we get our news sources from, and whether it's true or not. I mean, we look at TikTok. I mean, there was a trend on TikTok when the attacks happened in Israel and those people were slaughtered. Thousands of people were slaughtered in a single day. And we look on TikTok and people were saying, "Yep, they deserved it." Or you know, even going back into people agreeing with Osama bin Laden on TikTok, Gen Zers agreeing. It blows my mind in the world that we're living in with this. I can't understand it. I try to continue to live in the same principled manner that I believed in. I mean, have I grown from my first vote? And I don't want to age myself or make anybody else feel aged, but my first vote was 2004, and I've been involved in some sort of politics ever since then. And I try to live in that same principled mindset. Do I grow and do I learn? Yes, absolutely. And some values have changed a bit, but overall, I still try to remain the same person. And I live by, the United States is one of the greatest countries in the world, and we are a world superpower. And do I believe that we need to police certain bullies around the world? Absolutely. Do I believe that we need to, open our borders? Absolutely not. I'm a Native American. So I have a different opinion about immigrants coming in and taking our land. But, if you look into Chicago right now, if you watch some of those Chicago City Commission meetings, and I'm a big nerd, and I watch those meetings, it is incredible to see those folks coming out in droves saying the same things that Donald Trump was accused of saying in 2016. Send them back. They don't belong here. They're criminals. I couldn't believe my ears to hear Chicago residents in a commission meeting saying the things that Donald Trump was saying in 2016. And I'm not saying Donald Trump was right and that he held any integrity in the things that he was saying and painting a broad brush, but it's just interesting for me to hear Chicago, which is historically Black and historically Democrat, say those things about immigrants coming in.
So Jan got to hear from you. Thank you, Ryan. Got to get to you. And Jan, but I just a housekeeping thing. We bought 15 more minutes, so we're going to run it to 9:15. And I hope the panel can remain. If you can, I understand. Let me just say this. Let me say this about. I started out by talking about Russia. I can't, Ryan. I can't let you put that all on social media. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been right on Fox's microphones, in CNN and MSNBC's Newsmax's microphones. She's been on all those microphones, as well as you have seen the Speaker of the House, who looked like, even though he's an election denier, he came in, looked like he was going to try to be fair. When Trump said, no, don't give Biden don't give him that election victory, he stopped the package that was on the table that the Republican senators have said was the best package that we had as far as the Middle East and Ukraine. And so anything dealing with Russia, Trump has his hands off it. Henry, I know your hands up. Jan, I got to get you in. Why is he so scared of Russia, Jan? And what's his affinity to dictators? You've been in Washington. Tell me that. And what's his threat to democracy?
Oh, he's a huge threat to democracy. I mean, when you look at, he's an insurrectionist. He supported it. He spurred that whole January 6th debacle. He is the reason why those people came to Washington and did what they did. And so that's where the integrity of these brand of Republicans really begs the question of, why are they behind a man who, number one, was found guilty of sexually assaulting a woman? Okay. He also is someone who is racist to the bone. When you look back, and I go back, I started working on Capitol Hill in 1982. And so I've seen a lot, and I know where a lot of the bones are buried. So the FBI released over 400 pages of records on Mr. Trump, both his father, Fred, and Donald, in which he was incredibly discriminatory practices in his real estate against Black residents trying to get apartments. It's all there in the FBI files. The insurrection. This is a person who said if he stood in the middle of Madison Square Garden, I think it was, and killed someone, Americans would have no problem with it. This is a man who disrespects women at every turn, who stated during the 2016 election cycle that, just grab women in their genitals. I mean, that's just really not someone that we should have representing the United States. I've lived outside of the country. I have been to many, many countries, and that's just not a good look. When I speak on topics such as Republicans, which I've worked with many, I've been told by many of my Republican colleagues that I'm more conservative on some issues than they are. And when I cite what is it that Mr. Trump has done for Black Americans, I put his record up there with Richard Nixon. And, when I was growing up, Richard Nixon, all of his scandal was unraveling in real time. But I can say about Richard Nixon, he signed the Voting Rights Act of 1970, which expanded the 1965 legislation to include northern states. I grew up in Detroit, grew up in a northern state. He ended discrimination in companies and labor unions that received federal contracts. Nixon set guidelines and goals for affirmative action hiring for African Americans, known as the Philadelphia Plan. He included contracts of 50,000 or more in all areas of industry. He created the Small Business Administration, which in turn created funding and financing for Black businesses. He imposed wage and price controls. He started a war on cancer, and he presided over Apollo 11. That is someone that people hated, and he unfortunately was disgraced as a president, but he stepped down and he put country first over himself and his own ego. Mr. Trump does not even have that type of integrity to step away and just try and quietly go away from the damage he's done to the United States. So when I speak on that and I look at a president who had his own scandals, and yes, I concur, if Hunter Biden is found to be guilty of any and everything, lock him up. We know that Hunter Biden only got a portfolio of Ukrainian boards of directors for Ukrainian gas companies or fossil fuel companies, because his father had a portfolio of Ukraine interests when he was vice president. We know that. And I have no problem. Hold him accountable, hold everyone accountable. But Mr. Trump is not fit to be president. I have served, once again, this country in legislative capacities, and I have had to pledge allegiance to the Constitution. Very, very difficult for me, because the Constitution did not consider me and my ancestors as human, as people, or citizens. Had to fight on all fronts as a woman and as a Black person to get all of the rights that I enjoy now, and still fighting for a variety of rights. And Mr. Trump has been responsible for rolling back those rights that I know my parents and great-grandparents and grandparents, because my great-grandparents were enslaved in this country. Mr. Trump is a threat to our democracy and to Black people for sure. And so that's what I speak of integrity. He lacks it.
Yeah, and so I want to piggyback in on that, because you mentioned it, Jan. I want to ask Ingrid, and then I'm going to ask Bro Ludwig, and I'm going to ask Henry to respond to them. Hey, Mac, how you doing? He said most of these indictments seem extremely weak, minus the insurrection. So let's park at the insurrection. Ingrid, Miss Ingrid, are you going to tell me that you are comfortable with the president that incited an insurrection at the U.S. Capitol?
Well, I am going to tell you that there was no insurrection, and they attempted to impeach President Trump twice, and there has not been an impeachment. And again, the truth will come out. You know, that's the thing. The American people, especially our people, they just take what the media or social media puts out. They don't dive to find the truth. And I want to respond. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, please I'm going to ask you if you hit time out 1 second. I've heard this before. And I think most of us, I know everybody on this line is more intelligent than to think that the media can force feed us. Our eyes did not lie to us. We saw a gallows. We heard the chant, hang Mike Pence. We heard them going in the Capitol to say, Nancy. They were there to stop a constitutional process from taking place. Now tell me, ma'am, that's not an insurrection.
That was not an insurrection. A lot of the people that you heard were planted. All the videos were not released, and all the testimonies were not released, but they will be. They just recently, and just keep watching the case, because they suppressed President Trump's speech when he requested for backup.
Are you telling me? You're taking me out of the role of moderator. But are you telling me? And I'm a former police officer. I worked narcotics cases with the DEA. I worked murder cases with the FBI. Are you telling me that those were plants that went into the Capitol? Those same people who pled guilty, those same people who went to trial and lost, that this former president calls hostage. And he said, remember, it wasn't until he called it off 2.5 hours after being begged by his daughter, his chief of staff, members of the Senate and the House, and everybody else. He finally called it off, and he referred to those as he said, "I love you because you were here to support me." You're saying that's not an insurrection?
The evidence showed that was suppressed.
The evidence got them in jail. The evidence landed them with federal prison terms. You're saying they're not insurrectionists?
What I'm saying to you is a lot of these cases are being overturned, even by the Supreme Court.
I've not seen one.
A lot more.
Can you cite one? Can you cite one?
And a lot more will be overturned, because
can you cite one that's been overturned? Can you cite one that's been overturned? One case that's been overturned, convicted for the insurrection on January 6th of 2021.
There are several cases where the sentences. There are several. I'm going to send you the information. There are several cases where where judges are overturning the sentences or reducing the sentence. And well, the evidence is coming out, but what I'm saying is there were several people that were in the photograph that if you look at them closely, they were not at the original photograph where the people were just gathering there at the Capitol with President Trump earlier. There were people planted to disrupt and to cause issues. And again, all those evidence are going to be coming out. But I want to address something. I want to address something that
before you go there, let me ask you one question. I don't mean to be rude, sister. You please know that I want to tell everybody, Sister Ingrid prayed for me when I was down the last month or so, and the first thing she did was pray for me. So I would never be disrespectful, but I'm kind of up to here with this about the media, because that kind of speaks of all of our intelligence. I'm talking about what we're seeing. You do realize that the attorney, I can't think of his name, who introduced Trump at the rally, who appeared right before him, you do know that he has been disbarred and he himself is facing criminal charges, right? That's not a fake, right?
I do know that, Pastor Dozie, but what I'm explaining to you is a lot of the evidence and footage on that day was suppressed, and it will come out in the trial. So we have a constitution and we have a due process. I'm not an attorney, but I do have a bachelor's in criminal law. Let the process plays out. Let the evidence be shown, and let us see what happens at the end of the January 6th trial. President Trump's request for backup for backup to come was suppressed. They did not show that he asked for forces to be dispatched, and that was suppressed, and many other things was suppressed. But let me say, let us allow, we have a tendency to circumvent the criminal justice system and label people as guilty and without the due process. He's already taken to court. So allow the due process to play out. Let the evidence, let the witnesses come, right, and give him his day in court, and we will see what the evidence show. Another thing I wanted to address real quickly was Miss Azel's information that she was given, which was very, very insightful. But you can't cite a part of history and cut out the rest of history, right? So it was Abraham Lincoln, a Republican, who played a significant part in the abolition of slavery in 1863. A Republican. He did the Emancipation Proclamation during the Civil War, that all enslaved people in Confederate-held territory were to be set free. It was a Republican, right? The 13th Amendment, right, that Lincoln supported, the 13th Amendment, which was ultimately ratified in December of 1865, which abolished slavery and involuntary servitude throughout the U.S., was done by a Republican. The 14th Amendment, which is often credited to John Bingham, he was a key figure in this amendment. And the 14th Amendment was aimed to secure equal rights and protection under the law for all citizens, including former slaves. That was a Republican. The 15th Amendment of 1870 was credited to another Republican, George Julian, that was aimed to prohibit the denial of voting rights based on race.
That's what I want to pick up right there. I hate to cut you off, but I got 4 other panelists. I got to get them in. Ludwig's been very patient.
Yeah, so let's cite all of history. Don't just cite a part, but let's cite all of history then.
Okay, Ludwig, let's pick up on the history that Miss Ingrid was just reading. Let's pick up. Let's circa 2024. It was under Donald Trump, during the 4 years he was the president of the United States, that all of these election suppression laws, do you have any history on those? All of these election suppression laws, which were primarily aimed at Black and poor people in the southern states, all of these ridiculous election suppression laws that President Johnson, who signed the Voters' Right Act in 1965, had passed and was in fact in the law of the land, and the Republican Supreme Court that Donald Trump stacked, they have agreed with all of these ridiculous suppression laws aimed primarily at Black people. And I just want to ask you, Ingrid, how can you support a person who presides over that? And you've heard Henry has given you great facts about the former president's racial, and Jan has given great facts about his racial, his history of racism. And we just had, and you were part of that show a few weeks ago where we talked about one party having more of a racist background. And that's one that cannot be dug out of, but I'm going to give you the opportunity.
So I just want to clarify what's that for Ingrid for me. So, but I just want to thank for that the opportunity to speak. But you mentioned something about Johnson and with the back in the 60s. Now, referring to now today, there is no election law. Now, I do know there are some concerns, but I haven't met one Black person that said they couldn't vote, that had the opportunity to vote, or there was any issue of any people in the Black community. Not when it comes to like saying it's too far or there's not enough boxes, that's something we can talk about. But in terms of the opportunity or ability to vote, I have not heard that. So I've always heard people hearing, or what I've noticed is that there's been an increase, matter of fact, in the Black votes. And so if you look at Georgia,
not being able to give a 96-year-old woman a chair.
If you look at Georgia, let's see look at how the turnout went. And how are you going to tell me that this suppression on the Black votes?
You guys put up Herschel Walker. What do you expect? They're gonna come out in droves to deny him, as opposed to an intelligent PhD preacher.
Okay, so here's the thing. But what my point is this: you're saying there's election laws that is trying to suppress the Black votes, and I'm saying that that's not the case.
Well, you being Black, the Black folk are the most resilient on the planet.
No, agree.
You can't exterminate us. You can do what you want to do, but we're going to keep coming back because we believe in a mighty God who has never failed or forsaken us.
But here's the thing: you're going to tell me that. Well, I know what you're going to say, but what I'm saying is this: I myself, and I don't think anybody here on this panel can actually point out to a person, a Black voter, that was suppressed from voting.
I can definitely do that. I can do that in the 14th, 13th, 12th congressional districts in Detroit during the 2022 and 2023 election cycles that we had here. So much so, I mean, even going back further, I can point to them so much so that our Attorney General had to look into it. Voter suppression comes in many, many ways, such as reducing the number of polls that are available for people to go to vote. These laws in Georgia that were passed to not give, and it's hot there, give people water if they were walking the line, to give people water. And I think Dozie just mentioned a 96-year-old woman who was trying to vote standing and not allowing her to sit. Someone give her a seat to sit in. I mean, truly, you're not being truthful when you state that there are a lack of people who have encountered voter suppression tactics. But I want to go back to what Ingrid stated about these cases that are being overturned with regard to the insurrection. I worked in and around the United States Capitol for many, many years. When I first got out of college and started working on Capitol Hill, I used to take naps on the Capitol lawns before all of the security was erected. It was very open to the people. um, for when I speak of lacking integrity, for members of Congress who happen to be Republican to state that, oh, it was not an insurrection, it was just like any other visitor center visitors coming in and out. That is a bold-faced lie, because I have taken a lot of people over the years through the United States Capitol, underground, to the House, to the Senate, to the Supreme Court, because I had the ability to, as a congressional staffer, to get through security in order for them to get to meetings or even just see what the underground trains system was like between the House and the Senate. Jacob Chansley, the self-styled QAnon shaman who stated that he was there in the Capitol, broke into the US Capitol on January 6, 2021, because Donald Trump told him to come, invited him to come. Never in the many, many decades that I was in and out of the US Capitol did anyone ever smear feces and desecrate that building. Now, I have my own issues with the Constitution because it didn't include Black people as humans, but I have sworn allegiance to it. I have been an elected official, and I have sworn allegiance to uphold the Constitution. This is not what Mr. Trump did. He violated all the tenets of democracy by inciting an insurrection. And that is not someone who should be in the hallowed halls of the United States Congress or the presidency. Black enslaved people built the US Capitol, built the White House, uncompensated. And of course, Dozie knows when I worked for Congressman John Conyers back in 1989, I helped to write the first reparations legislation, federal reparations legislation known as HR 40. And so I have lots of conflicts with the United States, with the Constitution, the way that Black people have been treated in this country. And I was appointed to the Detroit Reparations Task Force. Yeah. But I can still uphold the Constitution, and Donald Trump did not.
Guys, thank you, Jan. Our time is up, but it would be incorrect for me not to give everybody an opportunity. I'm gonna start with Henry. Really, this has got to be a 30-second wrap up. I'll go to Henry, to Ingrid, to Ludwig, and to Randy. And Randy, thank you for your patience in tonight. And then Jan, I'll give you the last 30 seconds. Absolutely 30 seconds, guys, because I got to get out of here. I hate it, but we got to do that. Go ahead, Henry.
I just want to ask one question to Miss Ingrid and Mr. Lack. Did not Donald Trump say when he become president, he will pardon all of those that got locked up for storming the White House?
Ms. Ingrid, you want to respond in your 30 seconds?
My response, thank you so much. I'm grateful to be here. My response is the same as I indicated earlier. We are going to allow these cases to go through the judicial system, and we will see the truth will come out, because darkness cannot hide from light, and all the truth will eventually come out. All the evidence will come out. All the videos that were suppressed, all the statement that was suppressed, the narrative it's already broken, but it will be broken. And I hope to be back on November 6th so we can, come together and look back at this tape today and see how a wool was pulled over the American people's eye.
We will be. I'm going to ask you back to talk about that other issue. Way before then, but we will get back and reconvene and talk. Go ahead, Brother Ludwig.
I just want to say again, thank you. In regards to the contribution to Black Americans of what they provided for this country, we're resilient people. And, we can't overlook the history that we've gone through. There's obviously progress to be made. With that being said, I know that there's plenty of opportunities for us to grow. And where we are today, I don't believe that that future is going to be happening under President Biden. He's put us in a direction where I don't believe is going to put us in the right track. So that's the reason why I'm going to continue to support President Trump, because I do believe that he's going to be better for all Americans.
Thank you. Randy.
Thank you all for having me again. And to honor Jackie Robinson, as you stated earlier, I also let us not forget Mac Robinson. Mac Robinson, his brother, who came in second to Jesse Owens in the 200-meter race in the Olympics. So Mac Robinson is one of my heroes, along with Prefontaine. I'm a runner, so I really looked up to Mac Robinson. But thank you all for having me. This was a great discussion, very diverse train of thought, which I love. I miss those days when you can have cordial, diverse thought and challenge one another on your opinions and state facts that are meaningful facts, that aren't alternative facts, as one might say. And I will say this, that to the January 6th discussion, I'm coming up with my 30 seconds, but to January 6th, I believe that it was you're breaking the law, you're breaking the law, and if 2020, those riots where properties were destroyed and Portland was overtaken and government buildings were burned down in Portland, that was criminal as well. And we can't just say one thing is one and the other thing is not. So I think people need to be held to account.
Thank you, Randy. Jan, can you wrap us up in 30 seconds?
Yes, definitely. Thank you for having me tonight. Those are definitely alternative facts. As I stated, I've been in and out of the U.S. Capitol most of my career. The election denying, those are alternative states of facts. Denying that there was an insurrection at the U.S. Capitol January 6, 2021 is near blasphemy. People died as a result of that. One woman who was breaking into the Capitol, a veteran, she died for her actions. Others, Capitol Hill police officers, which I know many of them, killed themselves because they were so traumatized. Approximately 718 individuals have pleaded guilty to a variety of federal charges, many of whom faced or will face incarceration at sentencing for their role in the insurrection. And another 505 have pleaded guilty to misdemeanors with regards to the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. So those are alternative facts. And anyone who chooses to not believe that it happened is living in an alternate universe. Good evening.
Thank you, Kylie. Listen, I'm going to do something if my brother would do if he was here tonight. As I see it, first of all, I want to thank all of our panelists. Love what you got us started. You introduced Randy to us, and what a great introduction that is. And so glad to have Miss Ingrid with us. We missed you the first time. You more than made up for it tonight, and you all right with me because you took me to the Lord in my illness. And just thank you for your heartfelt opinions. Jan, your experience always screams out, and we're so grateful for it. Henry, man, you're just open-heartedness and your wisdom, your open-eyed wisdom. 10,000 words of appreciation to you for what you brought to tonight's dialogue. I appreciate our guests so very much on behalf of my brother and the producers. Thank you all so much. Want to thank Mac and Miss Danae VT for your comments, and can't monitor YouTube at the same time, but thank all of you over here on Facebook for engaging in the conversation. I want to thank you, Randy, for actually engaging with our with our audience tonight. This is a faithful audience, and Max brings all these facts. He's a former Marine also. As I see it, the country is forced between two, as opposed bear out two candidates that they're not really satisfied with. That's what the polls bear out. But we also know that the polls in 2016 showed one candidate winning overwhelmingly, and it didn't materialize. Presented facts tonight. We talked about indictments. We talked about character. We talked about integrity. What did occur was there was deflection. There was some of these issues were dealt with head on, but there was a lot of deflection. And I understand that I'm argumentation and debate student, so I understand all of that. But what I appreciate is what Randy said and what everybody on the panel sensed. And if they didn't say it openly, we knew that's what you felt. That we could sit down and have this discussion openly, and we leave with hands joined. We're hugging each other virtually. We appreciate the discussions because at the end of the day, we're all Americans and we all love our country and we all want to see what's best for it. God bless each of you. It's been a heavy show tonight. Listen, Go Giga Creations, GoGiga.com. We cannot thank you enough. We cannot thank you enough. We cannot thank you enough. Thank you for the extension. This has been a heavy show. Unless something drastic happens over in the Middle East or some other things occur, next week we got to have some fun. We're going to do something cultural. It'll probably be a look back at a TV program or something like that. We'll talk a little sports. And thank you, Randy, for telling us about Jackie Robinson's brother. Thank you for that. Go Giga Creations, you are the best. Panel, we appreciate you. All of our fans, we love you. Dialogue with Dozie. We're out next Monday night, 8 p.m.